BW will be themed. The War Within.
Yeah, of course. So, just for a little bit of context, for visual development, we usually don't handle too much of like the character stuff, so it's not necessarily like my main expertise.
Hmm.
But I can tell you for the War Within, one of um, the goals for the tier sets is to lean more into.
I think that's the rogue tier set, and the more I see it, the more I think it's badass. Like I love so like these the wraps inside the wraps that actually like does like these glowing effects, and so does the shoulders and the helm. I've seen a live action of that. I think they're doing a really good job with that. And the more I see this rogue set, the more I like it. I also like these like little things on the end. The rogue's supposed to be like speedy fast. It reminds me of like some kind of anime character, like Sonic or something.
To class fantasy. Um,
Mm, okay.
yeah,
All right, gotcha. So that's how it was for like the first like 20 tier sets.
yeah, I'm kind of going back to that a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah, because I always remember how they had like the whole like how many times can we have a set that shows you what a hunter is like? It's like we were running out of animals to show
Yeah,
you.
I didn't like
So
the
I was like,
hunter
I'm
set.
totally fine with them going to just random themes instead of class sets, but like the players love the class sets. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyway, next one. How did you go about designing for the hero talents? How are they visually alter a spec? And do you have any that you're excited for the most?
So I think like very similarly, I guess to like tier sets, the hero talents, I guess the core fantasy there is basically adding another layer of flavor to the class that you play. I don't know about you, but like whenever I play a specific class in my mind, I always kind of have a little bit of an idea of like, oh, I'm not just a druid. I'm like, this special type of druid, the chosen of Elune, for example. So I play balanced
Mm.
druid. So, for example, I'm just like particularly excited about the idea of playing as a super plus lunar blessed, I guess, druid.
So I see what this guy is saying. I get what this guy is saying, right? So he is really about the class fantasy, right? And I get that too. Class fantasy and identification to your classes is kind of huge. That being said, I hated that they put power into the class fantasy. I felt like you should be able to click on things and your tune changes. Like Rider of the Apocalypse, you are a mounted Death Knight on your mount. You are riding in and you are attacking while on the mount. That's awesome. That's great. Cool. But it's tied to power. I don't like that this is tied to power. They should have did hero skins. I'm sorry, Blizzard, you should have did hero skins, and you should have just added another three buttons or a three talent row or four talent row, whatever, to the class and to the specs instead of going with all this. I don't like that I have to choose because I don't care what you say, there's going to be a bis with that. And in order for me to have my bis, I might not be able to be the Rider of the Apocalypse. I might not be able to be the Juggernaut Warrior or whatever. I might not be able to be the Oracle Priest because it's not what's bis. There's always going to be a bis. So when you tie player power into these skins, players are going to choose the power. I don't like that. I'm sorry. The hero skins, though, is a great idea. I'm glad it's going to change the classes and do all that. But, me personally, it should not have been tied to player power, and I hope they remove that at some point. I really do. I hope the community's with me on that. Because when they've tied this game to player power in the past, from Legion, BFA, Shadowlands, they have lost subscription numbers. It's happened every time. Players don't want to feel like they have to do a certain thing to get what they want. Look at the legendary system, right? In Legion, that was horrible. Because if you didn't get your pieces that you wanted, you felt bad. And some people even went to the extremes of re-rolling because they knew they weren't going to get the legendary. They would re-roll even the same class to get that legendary. On top of having to do the the power, I forget what it was for Legion, and having to put all that time and effort into a tune, it was not good. It's not a good feel. You should really remove the player power off that.
Um,
Like a
so
stop.
it's just gonna be a matter. Yeah, exactly. It's just gonna be a lot more like light beams upon light beams, more light beams, please.
Oh,
So
that's cool.
yeah.
Yeah, because I've been playing around with the shadow one and the what is it, the alpha or whatever. And I was like, I really like the it's just more void, but that's all it is really.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
some of them more is just like leaning into that a little bit more. But yeah, what about you, Abigail?
Well, I was just going to say, I like them for, exactly what you kind of identified, Gabe, but like taking the fiction of the character to a logical extension in some of these hero talents, to that heroic level for each player character. And, for me, Soul Harvester, I'm a warlock, you know, um,
Oh,
so,
that's
you
great
know,
because we have some Warlock questions here.
oh Lord. Well, I'm not a class designer, unfortunately, but
Oh
I'll
no,
try
none
my
of them are
best. I'll
about
do
class
myself.
stuff.
Okay. Okay. Well, we'll see.
Yeah. Dragon riding. They've been amazing for customization, and we hear a bit more about the customizations.
Dragon riding was so much needed. Yes, you can still fly the old way, but it was, if there's anything I can take out of Dragonflight that they did right and it needed to be done, it was dragon riding. At first, I was not a fan of it, but to make it interactive, and you have to be kind of interactive to do your dragon riding and to fly around, has been great. The reason being, because previous expansions, I would get on my mount, hit auto run, walk away, or get on a bird and walk away. It was needed to keep you engaged and to be there. It has been a breath of fresh air. Kudos to the team on the dragon riding. Love the dragon riding. I love that it's faster than regular mounts too, because you can zip around some of these old zones like crazy. Um, definitely, definitely a great thing. Now they're going to talk about the mount customization. It's probably going to be about that ship and stuff like that. That they're doing a great job with that. I mean, they Dragon Ride, Dragonflight was so much needed. It really was. They have done such a great job.
Basically, are we going to get any more customizations for dragon riding besides just the gyrocopter showed at BlizzCon?
I believe that Jack.
That's where I seen that chopper, that air flying thing. It was at BlizzCon. Um, but we went through this earlier. But yeah, this is the customization thing that they're talking about with pretty much they're going to probably do with a lot of mounts going forward and just make less mounts.
Gyrocopter is at the moment it's the only mount that we have so far that's going to be customizable. But we're always looking for opportunities for adding additional customization for mounts, not just you know future customizable mounts that we may have, but also previous ones as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's. I think that's all the info I have on that one.
Yeah, I think that answers the question. Okay, next one. These ones are about the zone. The War Within is going to have 3 of its 4 zones underground. How have you been working to make sure the zones will feel different enough from one another?
Right, because all of them are underground, so
Yeah, they're
therefore
all
they
like
must all
Nerubian.
just be caves, you know.
Yeah, they're all the Azul Nerub.
Actually, like that, I mean, like not just with the War Within, but I think for all of the expansions, like whenever we design zones, like that is sort of the primary one of the primary tenets that we try to problem solve against is like how do we give individual zones their own identity, which is especially hard when you consider, 20 years of World of Warcraft. We've explored how many forests have we seen, like how many
Yeah.
jungles, and so always trying to make like a different type of environment can be pretty challenging. I think for the War Within, like we really hadn't done too many caverns besides our Lake Cavern. So we really had to lean into the stories that we wanted to tell underground, right? Like we find ways to, um, I guess, subvert your expectations a little bit of what an underground zone could be. Like, for example, in the Arathi.
Never really thought about that, but he's like 100% right. Like how many forests have we been through, and they always seem to be able to do something different and stuff like that. Never really thought about that, but maybe that's why they are going underground, because they're just the ideas aren't there to wow people. I know, like for me, when I first started playing the game back in 2004, like 2004, 2004, um, 20 years ago. Jesus, I was a little boy then, little 18-year-old boy. Um, that's what captured me. I started as a night elf rogue, and me and my buddies, long story short, got to level 10. Couldn't figure out that we had to get off the island until we found that little purple thing in Darnassus that teleports you. Took us a week to find that. And didn't even know about opening up the map, but when you roll in the boat, it automatically like shows you a map of Azeroth. Then we figured out that there's a map button. That is what really sold me into the game. Because I thought the little island was the whole thing, right? And then, boom, there's these giant continents. That's what sold me. So this is something I never thought about, is when they're making all these zones and stuff, expansion after expansion after expansion, like how they've been able to keep it interesting and different each zone. That's definitely how many zones are there? At this point, it's definitely over 100 zones. We might even be nearing 200 zones at this point. That's a lot. That's a lot of artwork. That's a lot of stuff.
The uh, uh, wow, I'm blanking on the name.
Halafal.
Yes, Halafal. I'm sorry. I was gonna call it Arathi Canyon because I have been calling it for a while, but yes, Halafal. Um, Obviously, we have the crystal up in the sky, which I know, mysterious crystal that we don't know too much about, but conveniently, it all acts as like a proxy for a sun. So there's a lot of different ways that we can re-inject like interesting identities into the zone that can help us kind of push the idea of what a conventional cavern, I guess, could be.
Also, I'm gonna tee up Gabe a little bit more. Architecture also helps.
Yes, architecture.
Oh. So it's not going to be open to ziggurats.
Oh, definitely not. I think for the Nerubian zone in Ashkahet, I think that's going to be the core flavor. Nerubians
Yeah,
plus
of
we're going to
course.
see like the core of the Empire, but that's not going to be the only flavor that we're going to have.
Yeah, I would imagine, especially with the Arathi. There'll probably be some human architecture down there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, can you speak about how big these zones are compared to Dragonflight zones, as an example?
The
Are
dragon.
any key landmarks that you're proud of in each zone?
You don't really realize it for dragon because you're dragon riding. And it kind of makes the zones feel a little bit smaller than they really are. But the Dragon Isle zones are huge. They're really big.
That's a good question on the size. I want to say they're pretty similar, relatively similar in size. I'm gonna have to get back to
I would have to imagine so with dragon riding, right? They would have to be somewhat similar sizes, right?
you on that one. But in terms of like the landmarks, I think obviously for Halifal, like I said, like the big crystal, I think it's like a very cool dynamic component of the zone because we throughout the story we will also sort of see it, change. And it's going to affect the environment in ways that we.
So what are they going to do? So basically, you're going to go through different phasing with that zone. As you unlock more of the zone, the crystal is going to change. I don't know too much about the zone, but I can get with that. That's cool.
Maybe have a more of an impact in this zone specifically than they might in other zones that we have seen in the past.
Yeah, I think I get that.
For myself, in Zone 1, I really like the work that was done for the Foundation Hall, our main building where the council meets. Storm Perch is an awesome building. Yeah. And we have a summoning POI for the point of interest for the Stormbrooks, and that's very cool as well.
Like summoning what now?
We have in our zone the Storm Riders that ride the Stormbrooks, the Griffin type mount, and that's part of the story later on.
Oh, okay, gotcha. That's what it says. Like, I don't recognize that. Okay. Should we expect to see a day-night cycle and a weather system for these zones? And also, will the crystal of Hollows Fall have a part in the weather or day-night?
Most of these zones are underground, right? That's actually a pretty interesting question. I want to hear the answer to that.
Cycles.
So I think obviously for above ground, there's going to be a day and night cycle, as we have seen previously in other above ground zones. I think underground, obviously, we need to, like I was mentioning before, we need to get a little bit more creative on how to add a little bit more breakup throughout the day. So they might not be day-night cycles or cycles, I guess, as we know them in the above-ground zones. There are going to be other types of cycles that we see sort of alter the appearance of the zone throughout the day. Like you mentioned before, like you were referring to, is like things like weather. I guess like what would internally we call storms. It's just like things that sort of trigger certain types of effects on the environment. And yeah, I think for Hallowfall Canyon, the crystal is going to have a big impact on those elements.
Yeah, I'd imagine so. It's kind of like you almost answered it a little bit earlier. Will we be seeing more customization added to races, and especially the allied races?
I think because customization is like a pretty pivotal part of player identity and like how we consume and play the game. So to us, is like super important to find opportunities for us to add more of that stuff. We're always like constantly looking for ways to add that stuff. I think for the allied races, I guess specifically for the Earthen, we can see like very, very unique types of customizations. I mean, maybe we wouldn't have expected.
Like what?
Yeah, I'll leave it at that. Okay, so for example, like very interesting beards, which I know sounds a little silly, but I think I
can understand based on some of like the creatures I saw in the alpha.
Yes.
Like, dang, I didn't think you could have like a stone ram, for example, but it looked good. Okay, so on to story and world building. Aridicon has seemingly been gathering a group of powerful beings. Zalatath, the Infinite Dragons, Galakron. Can you speak on any more allies of the past we may be seeing growing to join the army? Maybe a legendary five-headed dragon, Chromatus, or even Ajara?
At the moment, we can't, go look that far in the future and spoil things like that. But Zalatath is our.
That guy's smiling. That guy is smiling. He gave it away. They're gonna have some pretty awesome baddies ganging up with Eridicon. Look at that smile. And she's like, I can't say anything because it'll be spoilers, but we all know. That smile right there. Look at that smile. He is Definitely smiling. That's great.
Our main villainous character in this, and you'll be seeing a lot of her.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So, with Zalatath being a major character in the War Within, do you have anything you could speak about what she's been doing while she's gone? Wait, about what she has been doing while she's gone, and maybe to do with Season of Discovery?
Can't
Not
do
sure
that with
it
that.
it fits in, for, specifically to Season of Discovery, but
Can't do that.
also that talking about Zaltath, like I think that's a little bit spoilery. I'm not sure if I can
You're
give
like
you
calculating.
any info on what she's been doing in the interim. Um, but just know that she has been playing the long game.
Right.
Put it that way.
This is a hot take. I think Zalatath is an ally. They are portraying her to be like this mysterious, like backdooring thing going on. But I think she's going to be like a super ally for some reason. I feel like what she's doing is for good, but we just don't know it yet. Um, I'm very excited to see where her story goes. I'm really hoping they tell a good story. But she she's onto something.
That way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We
I was
can
gonna say,
totally
like,
see
she's
that in Season of Discovery.
she's just been up to no good, really, and plotting things from the shadows, trying to find ways to get
Mhm.
ahead.
Yeah, and I think they said something about this Season of Discovery Lord Zalatath not being canon, right? Or did I mishear that?
I'm not sure. I have not heard a lot about that, honestly.
There's like a whole bunch of lore added that is with a shadowy figure that's totally not Zalatath, but everybody just assumes it is because it just fits her so well. So like that's basically what this question is. It's just like, is that going to relate to the expansion or not? It seems like probably not, based on your guys' reaction to it. Next one. With the launch of the War Within, stepping away from the dragon-based storylines, the Drakthir have been learning alongside the denizens of Azeroth. Might we see them pick up new classes and visage forms from the intermingling?
We already know this. The answer is yes.
Is that like do you mean like in terms of the customizations with the visage forms?
So yeah, basically, will Drakthir be able to transform to things besides humans? And will they get new classes to play?
Oh, I see. Nothing to share on that yet. Like I mentioned before, when it comes to customization, uh, it tends to be something that we are always thinking about and like finding like the best ways for us to, the best moments for us to go back and add more of those types of things. I can't say with certainty that for the War Within that will be something that we're going to be.
Yeah, they didn't know yet, but like I said, we already knew that there were going to be more classes. So eventually, I think they would just be able to change their visage to you want to be a gnome, you want to be this, you want to be that. That definitely makes sense. Um, why would they just always be a human or whatever? That 100% makes sense because the visage is supposed to be a outer display of their selves, right? That's how it was explained to you, right? So why wouldn't they be able to identify as a night elf or identify as a dwarf? You know what I'm saying? Or an orc or anything. That does make a lot of sense. So I think they will be adding at least a couple of those in the future. I don't see why they wouldn't.
Be super focusing on in terms of customization, and then in terms of class. Again, I don't have too much on that for you. I'm sorry.
I think those are really interesting ideas, but for now, I don't think that's in the pipe.
Okay.
But it wouldn't like throw it out either.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So basically, not soon, but maybe in the future.
Yes.
In an anything's possible sort of way, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Next one. With the War Within taking place so deep within Azeroth, Might we find ourselves assisted by a wound healing crystal dwarf?
I'm healing crystal door.
I mean,
Well,
I know the answer.
Magni is around.
Yeah, I was just gonna say they're talking about Magni. If anybody's wondering, this dude's been a crystal since Cataclysm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, you meet
and-
him like immediately.
Right, you meet him immediately. He's in for the long haul on this. Yes. And he does, go down with you, and is a central part to some of the story. Yes.
Yeah, I even noticed that he was not as shiny as he normally is, but I assume that's a spoiler.
No. Yeah, that figures in pretty heavily into some stuff that they're keeping under wraps right now. But
Yeah.
yeah,
That
yeah.
makes sense.
I'm really excited though to like I guess like speaking about Magni, like to see a little bit more of him, and not just him, but also like his family as well, like his daughter Mora and his grandson Dagrin. I think we're gonna see a lot of them and learn more about them as characters. I'm particularly excited about Dagrin and try to like get players to like get to know him better, and so we have like another character introduced to us that we're hopefully going to see.
I didn't know he
in
had
the
a
future.
son.
Yes, well, it used to be like he was like a baby for like the longest time in Ironforge, right?
It's he's Moira's son.
Oh, yeah, I was about to say,
Yeah,
like, I know
grandson.
Moria
Yeah,
had a son,
grandson.
but I was like,
Yeah,
I didn't
yeah,
think he
Yeah,
had
yes.
one.
Yeah, this is
Okay, yeah,
That's
so his
Dagrin,
grandson, yeah.
Theresian too.
Oh, so he's older now?
Yes, he's
Oh.
finally not the little
Oh my,
baby.
yeah,
in
he's
the-
finally grown up. It's kind of like the whole Anduin thing again, where the little kids have grown up and now they're gonna get added to the story. Oh, that is
Yes,
exciting.
exactly.
Okay, so I have a couple of more minor questions about character customization, if you guys are fine with that.
I'll do my best to answer them.
Okay, so our peers and transmoggers really want an option to have their hair toggled off for helmets that where it shows through. Is that something that will be added sometime in the future?
I can't speak with certainty in terms of like whether it will be added
I don't know why they don't do that. It should be a thing.
in the near future.
Mhm.
But I do know that it's feedback that folks in the character.
Oh, bracers have mostly for the longest time been kind of useless as a transmog. However, recently there's been a corsage and wristwatch added to have some more 3D aspects. Is this a indication of more things to come? Kind of like how they experimented with the cloak being cool things in the back. Are they going to experiment with cool things being on the wrist for transmog options?
I can say that we are definitely. I think we're already experimenting with that. I think that's like a good sign that we're going to try to lean into that more where it makes sense. Similarly to the customization one, it's just like we really have to find like the right opportunities to do it, right? With things that make sense that are going to be additive, not distracting.
Well, that's pretty much the whole video right there. Nice to hear from the R team. Thank you for Hiru for putting that on. Definitely, that was some good stuff in there. They talked about some good stuff in there. They talked about the class fantasy, the hero talents and everything, the mount customizations, underground zone diversity, story and world building. That was good stuff. Shout out to them.